Hello, it is my pleasure to join you today, along with some of the College of Education's founding and earliest faculty members. On the occasion of the university's 50th anniversary, we've asked them to share their remembrance of what UCF was like in its earliest days and what their expectations were for the future when they first came to the university. Could they ever have imagined what UCF would evolve into? Being one of the university's original colleges, those who first helped open its doors have a unique perspective, not only on the past, but on the future. Please enjoy this unique window into what it was like and what it has become as we meet some of UCF's and the College of Education's pioneers.
I was a graduate student of Harry Hall at the University of Miami. And when I was working on my master's, and he said, I'm going to this new university in Orlando called FTU, Florida Technological University. And I said, what? You're leaving Miami to go to this place? He said, yeah. And I said, how did that come about? And the way it came about was very interesting. Harry, Cal Miller, Dave Hernandez, and others were involved with the Southeast Educational Research Laboratory, which was part of the UCF Education Initiative, at that time. And they all met in Atlanta, so they all knew each other. So then when Charles Milliken was given the presidency of UCF, he asked Cal Miller to become Dean of the College of Education. And Cal asked Harry to come, asked Dave Hernandez to come, and then they hooked up with Frank Roeder and Bob Martin. And that group all came as sort of a cohort of administrators who'd known each other for a number of years. So it was a very tight-knit group of administrators who came first to initiate our College of Education.
1968, Cal Miller, Dean of the College of Education, visited Florida State University, where I was the director of the exercise physiology lab and teaching in the physical education doctoral program. And he asked me if I could recommend someone for the chair of the physical education department and the director of athletics for a new state university starting up in Orlando. I said, hell yes, I recommend myself.
The first memory that I have of arriving at UCF is when Bob Cowgill called me. He said, there are just a few people who would like to talk to you. I thought, okay, I'll go out, and just a few people, I'll be finished by noon. And I spent the whole day, I was falling out at 5 o'clock, the same as everybody. That taught me that UCF was pretty thorough in what they did.
My first memory at arriving at UCF? Dirt. We were building. I mean, everything was building, and the only building that was up at that time was the library, and everything else was in partial development and piles of dirt around the campus. I know when I went back to Texas, they said, well, what do you think? And I said, there's a lot of dirt. And I had taken some pictures, and they said, where's the campus? I said, this is it.
I wasn't coming for a job interview. I was just coming to see the new university. I was impressed with the people. They were so enthusiastic. There was a great deal of excitement about starting something new. So I went home and thought nothing further about it. About a week later, I was called. They had conjured up a job for me in music education, my field, and so I joined the faculty at the new university.
I left the University of Wisconsin on August 24th, 1970, and I drove up to UCF from the University of Wisconsin in my red Volkswagen. It was a 2-lane road with palmettos in a university with 5 buildings in a sand pit in East Central Florida. My wife turned to me and said, what the hell have you done? Where have you taken me? You've taken me to this gulag. What on earth did you bring me to this university? My comment was, oh, no, baby. It's got all kinds of possibilities. Don't worry about it. Well, in 2 years, I'm going to be at Stanford, so we're going to be gone from here. But my first impression was small, small, small. That was it.
I was the first African American that they hired as a full-time faculty member, and that was for the whole university. The members of the faculty at College of Education were very warm and accepting. They asked me to come to help develop the exceptional ed program because my master's degree, even though it's filled with speech correction, speech pathology, speech program courses, the program itself was in special education. While I was doing that, then I supervised student teachers.
When I first came to FTU, I was a joint appointment with the College of Education in music education, and specifically elementary music education, and I also taught piano in the music department. I came as an instructor. I did not have my doctorate completed, but 2 years later I was promoted to assistant professor and completed my doctorate. In those days, moving through the academic ranks was a little bit different because the university was new and really needed to have tenured professors on the roster. And so I'm not going to say that it was easier, but it was different. There certainly was rigor, but it wasn't like the promotion approach that we have these days.
Well, when I came as an assistant professor in the College of Education in a department called Teaching Analysis. And one of the reasons I know I got the job was that UCF was trying to build a unique teacher education program, and something came, into the field that was called micro-teaching, and I was trained by the founders of micro-teaching, and I realized that I knew more than they did about the whole strategy, and I thought, well, I don't think you can blow this, interview. And I was thrilled at the fact that they wanted to build micro-teaching labs. We were the new kid on the block. We had no reputation. We had to build a reputation. We were struggling to make the connections with the community. And that was in all the fields, whether it was business or whether it was education. It was how do you make the connection? At least in education, I think we had a little bit easier time because we were willing to go out into the schools. And I think once we established that kind of pattern, that we weren't there to tell them what to do, we were there to help them do what needed to be done. We started developing master's programs, and particularly in the College of Education. Because we had teachers in the community who wanted to get advanced degrees, they didn't want to take off, they didn't want to go to Florida or FSU, or they wanted to stay in place and get their degrees.
My impression of the student body at first was that many people here at UCF wouldn't have been in college were it not for the fact that UCF was here. It was a parochial kind of student body. It was very close. Classes were very, very small. It was very, very intimate in terms of working with students, working with them almost on a one-to-one kind of basis. That's what the student body was like. They were very committed, and in many cases they were very grateful to have a university where they could get a higher education. And it was evident really early on that this was going to be a great benefit to this community.
I needed 15 students to start an undergraduate program in physical education. So I combed the registration line and I recruited 17 physical education majors, and they worked as a unit, and they enrolled in every class in the program as a group. They ate lunch together, they worked out together, and they studied together. And when it came time for the first graduation class to line up for their diplomas, these majors maneuvered to the head of the line, and they have the distinction of being the first 17 students to graduate from this university.
The students were great, and there were fewer of them, and so you had a great opportunity for individual attention and really living the motto of the university, accent on the individual.
The student body was an older student body. Many of the students who came were people who had never had an opportunity to go to school because they were place-bound. So they, their average ages were closer to the 30, 35 coming in. We didn't have a lot of young, typical, right out of high school kinds of students.
But some things are never going to change. I mean, when we came, there was a real sense of community, a real feeling of togetherness, excitement. We're doing something special, something new. I think that opportunity will continue now and in the future.
The College of Education always has had an outstanding reputation.
This university has grown into a phenomenal place in that short period of time.
I'm convinced that the College of Education faculty, staff, and administration will make the next 50 years of this university as legendary as the first 50 years.
I couldn't have had a better career, I couldn't have been in a better place, and I consider myself extremely lucky because I'm one of very few people who got to build a university from the ground up.
I hope you have enjoyed this visit with our colleagues who have led the way in shaping what UCF has become. Surely their contributions to the university and the college have had a lasting effect, even in the face of extraordinary growth, change, and challenge. We owe them a debt of gratitude and a pledge to keep alive the spirit of excellence they've brought to UCF. Who knows what the next 50 years will bring, but you can be sure it will be a reflection of what these pioneers accomplished in the beginning and what we contribute today. Thank you.